The station hung in the void of space like a silver jewel, its lights glimmering against the black canvas of the cosmos. Ships from countless species docked, each bringing their crews, their technologies, their expectations. Among them, one small human ship made its way carefully through the traffic, modest and unassuming compared to the sleek alien vessels that surrounded it. Inside, Kyle sat quietly in the pilot's chair, his hands resting lightly on the controls. He was human, and humans were often considered fragile, weak, and incapable by most interstellar civilizations. But Kale had learned early that strength was not always measured in muscle or armor. Strength could be patience, understanding, and keen observation. As the ship docked, a sense of tension filled him. This was not just any station. It was the heart of Ziria's world. She was a high-ranking member of her species, respected and feared. She had arranged to meet Kale for the first time after months of interstellar communication. To others, their union seemed unusual. Humans were considered inferior. But for Kale, appearances meant little. The airlock hissed open, and Kyle stepped out. The station was alive with movement. Alien species of all shapes and sizes walked past, their eyes glimmering with curiosity and judgment. He moved slowly, deliberately, taking in the surroundings. Every detail mattered. The way gravity shifted slightly near the center hub, the hum of energy from distant reactors, the vibrations through the floor from passing spacecraft. Then, he saw her. Ziria. She stood near the docking bay, tall and radiant, her body armored in elegant metallic plates that shimmered in shades he had never seen before. Her eyes, sharp and bright, fixed on him immediately. She walked toward him with a confident, almost predatory grace. Kale's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from anticipation. He had trained his mind to remain calm in situations like this, but this encounter was different. Ziria stopped a few paces away. Her gaze swept over him, taking in his slight build, the way he stood without obvious physical strength, the unassuming calm in his expression. A small smile, almost imperceptible, played on her lips. "So," she said, her voice melodic but firm, "you are the human who will call me wife." Kale inclined his head. "I am Kale. It is an honor to meet you, Ziria." His voice was calm, steady, betraying nothing of the storm of thoughts in his mind. Ziria's eyes narrowed slightly. She expected him to fumble, to stumble under her gaze. Humans were supposed to be weak, timid, unworthy of standing beside someone like her. But Kyle remained composed. That, she admitted quietly to herself, was unusual. "You are smaller than I expected," she said, almost dismissively. "I assumed humans would at least match our physical presence." Kale gave a faint, polite smile. "Physical strength is only one measure, Ziria. There are many ways to face the challenges of this world." Her brow arched. She liked words with meaning, but hers was a world where action mattered more than speech. Yet there was something in his voice, something subtle, that hinted he was not entirely what he appeared. Before she could respond, a loud alarm echoed through the docking bay. Lights flashed red, and a deep rumble shook the floor. Ship skidded to a halt as an automated warning blared. Unauthorized vessel approaching. Security protocols engaged. Ziria's expression shifted instantly. Alert, commanding, dangerous. She turned to Kale. "Stay close. Do not move unless I instruct you." Kale nodded, his posture unchanging. His calm seemed almost to contrast with the chaos erupting around them. While others panicked or drew weapons, he scanned the area, noting exits, potential cover, and the layout of the approaching threat. The intruding vessel emerged from the docking corridor, sleek and black, clearly hostile. Its weapons glinted, and alien figures moved with practiced precision inside. Ziria readied her own gear, energy blades sliding from her armor with a soft hum. "Do you fight?" she asked, her tone sharp, almost teasing. Kyle shook his head gently. "I will follow. Your lead, I can observe and assist." Her smile was thin. She had expected hesitation, fear, maybe even refusal. But not this quiet confidence. We will see, she murmured. Dot. The battle erupted quickly. Ziria moved with a speed and skill that left most bystanders breathless. Her blades flashed, cutting through the attacker's defenses, her movements a perfect blend of grace and lethal precision. Kyle stayed at a distance, observing, stepping carefully to avoid debris, occasionally moving to block a falling panel or shield a civilian with precision, timing that seemed instinctual. Ziria glanced at him mid-fight, curiosity flickering in her eyes. He wasn't striking, wasn't charging, wasn't even showing fear. And yet he was doing things, subtle things, that made the environment safer, that disrupted the attacker's progress, that helped allies react in time. When the skirmish ended, the intruders retreated, their vessel disabled but not destroyed. Ziria wiped a thin line of sweat from her brow, breathing heavily. She turned to Kyle, who stood calmly, unscathed, eyes bright and alert. You did more than I expected, she admitted, a note of disbelief in her voice. Kale inclined his head. I did only what was necessary. Strength is not always physical, Ziria. Observation, timing, and understanding can be powerful weapons. Ziria studied him carefully, her mind racing. She had thought him weak, unfit, maybe even incapable of surviving here. And yet, here he stood, not just surviving but quietly demonstrating abilities she had not anticipated. For the first time, she felt a flicker of doubt about her assumptions. Humans, she realized, might hide strengths far beyond what appearances suggested. And Kale, ever calm, simply waited, watching the station return to normal, letting the silent tension between them speak louder than words. In that moment, a partnership was born, not yet fully understood but undeniable. Ziria's curiosity was piqued. Kale's calm had set the tone, and neither could yet predict the challenges and revelations that lay ahead. The morning sun, strange and green through the station's large observation windows, cast long shadows across the training arena. Ziria moved ahead with confident strides, her armor glinting. Kyle followed quietly, keeping pace without rushing. Today she intended to test him, not formally. She didn't need a test. But the alien world they now lived in was unforgiving, and she wanted to see if her human husband could survive it. The arena was vast, a combination of natural terrain and technological simulation. Floating platforms shifted above pools of glowing liquid. Energy walls rose and fell without warning. Hidden traps and sudden obstacles challenged anyone daring enough to step inside. In Ziria's world, only those who adapted could survive. Strength alone would not be enough. You will follow my lead, Ziria said, her voice firm but tinged with amusement. Do not fall behind, and do not interfere unless I instruct you. Kale nodded, his expression calm. I will observe first, then act if necessary. She smirked. Weak, she thought, but he had not hesitated. That was something. The first obstacle appeared immediately. A wall of shifting energy blocked their path, pulsing with lethal force. Ziria leaped effortlessly over it, landing on a floating platform with precision. Kale paused for a moment, studying the movement. He measured the timing, the rhythm of the pulses, and then jumped. His body was lighter than hers, less powerful, but his timing was perfect. He landed safely, barely disturbing the platform beneath him. Ziria raised an eyebrow. Not bad, she admitted silently. But the next challenge would reveal more. The next section was a maze of sharp swinging blades and retractable floors. Most alien trainees had failed this section multiple times. Kale moved slowly at first, carefully observing the patterns, the intervals, the subtle changes in energy that indicated when a blade would swing or a floor would retract. He did not panic when a trap sprung beneath him. Instead, he calculated, adjusted, and moved in precise steps that allowed him to navigate the maze without injury. Ziria watched, her amusement growing into surprise. The humans were underestimated, always underestimated. And yet, here was one, alive, moving with careful intelligence rather than raw strength. Do you always think first, rather than act?" she asked, sidestepping a swinging blade. Kyle's eyes met hers. "Strength is not always action, Ziria. Understanding the challenge is the first step to overcoming it." She had no words for that, only a flicker of admiration. The next obstacle was a chasm with invisible bridges, activated only by precise weight placement. Ziria leaped forward with confidence, landing on the first bridge, which flickered beneath her feet but held steady. Kyle paused at the edge, scanning the invisible path. Using small jumps, tiny adjustments, and careful balance, he crossed the chasm. He did not leap boldly, but he moved with accuracy, each step deliberate, each landing calculated. Ziria could no longer deny that he possessed something unusual. Not her kind of strength, but a different kind. Intelligence, patience, adaptability. All qualities that, combined, could rival brute force. After the chasm, a series of energy walls shifted and rotated, forming complex patterns that required both speed and timing. Ziria moved first, her muscles powerful, her reflexes honed. Kale watched carefully, noting the rhythm. Then he moved. Though his movements lacked the explosive power of Ziria's, he anticipated each rotation, slid under walls, leaped over gaps, and completed the course with precision. By the end of the arena, a small crowd of aliens had gathered, murmuring in surprise. Some whispered about the humans' strange ability. Others. The station was quiet at first, a calm that felt fragile. Kyle and Ziria walked through the corridors together, discussing the day's exercises and the subtle ways Kale had observed alien systems. Ziria's curiosity about him had grown stronger. After the arena trials, though she still maintained her confident, authoritative demeanor. Then, without warning, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the hallways, and a deep, echoing voice announced, "Warning! Unauthorized vessel detected." "Security breach in Sector 7, Ziria's eyes narrowed. She was trained for this, every soldier on her planet was. But even she felt the surge of urgency. "Stay close," she commanded, her voice sharp. "This is serious." Kale didn't flinch. He followed her smoothly, scanning the corridors as they ran. His eyes noted structural weaknesses, potential cover spots, and alternate exits. While Ziria prepared for immediate combat, Kale already began calculating how to move safely, how to protect civilians, how to use the environment to their advantage. The source of the alarm emerged quickly. A sleek black vessel had penetrated the docking defenses. Its weapons glowed faintly, and alien figures inside moved with precision and aggression. The station's security forces scrambled, but the attackers were faster, coordinated, and unexpected. Ziria drew her energy blades and charged forward. Her movements were swift, lethal, and elegant. She cut down attackers with precision, each strike calculated, each motion efficient. Kyle followed at a distance, careful not to interfere but to position himself where he could make a difference. At first glance, he appeared passive, almost defenseless. But he didn't panic. Instead, he observed every detail, the angles of attack, the timing of laser blasts, the reactions of the station's defenders. With a subtle shift in stance or a quick nudge, he redirected falling debris, blocked energy surges, and guided civilians to safety. His actions were small but critical, like a hidden thread holding a tapestry together. Ziria noticed him finally, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You are helping, aren't you?" she asked mid-strike, narrowly dodging a blast. Kyle's voice was calm. "I am. Strategy matters as much as strength." The attackers pressed forward, moving with unexpected intelligence. They adapted quickly to Ziria's assault, forcing her to redirect energy and rethink her approach. Kale observed the pattern, noticing a subtle flaw in their formation. A small cluster of attackers relied on predictable movement, leaving a narrow path unguarded. Without hesitation, Kale moved, slipping through the chaos with speed Ziria hadn't anticipated. He used debris as cover, his body agile despite appearances. With precise timing, he disabled several attackers' weapon systems, creating openings for Ziria and the defenders. She stopped briefly, astonished. How? How are you doing that? Kale shrugged lightly. Observation, understanding, acting at the right moment. The battle intensified. The attackers split into multiple groups, some engaging Ziria directly, others attempting to sabotage the station. Kale's calm focus allowed him to intercept ambushes before they succeeded. A falling support beam was about to crush a security officer, and Kale kicked it just enough to redirect it safely. Another time, an energy pulse threatened to breach a corridor, and Kale rerouted the energy using a panel he had noticed earlier. Ziria was forced to reconsider her assumptions. This human, this quiet, seemingly frail man, was influencing the battle in ways she could barely comprehend. Not through brute strength, but through cunning, adaptability, and insight. The attackers regrouped, realizing their initial plan had failed. They began targeting the station's core systems, hoping to cause catastrophic damage. Ziria and Kale raced toward the control hub. Ziria fought off attackers directly, her blades a blur of lethal motion. Kale stayed just behind her, guiding her movements, disabling traps, and rerouting power when systems faltered. At one point, an enemy managed to corner Ziria. Kale acted instantly, throwing a panel from the wall to knock the attacker off balance. Ziria recovered and struck with renewed precision. "You," she said between movements. "You are remarkable." Kale's reply was calm, measured. "I do what must be done. Survival often requires more than strength." The final push came as the attackers tried to flee through the docking bay. Kyle anticipated their route and blocked them with a combination of debris and rerouted security drones, forcing their surrender. Ziria disarmed the remaining attackers swiftly, her focus sharp but tempered by astonishment. When the battle ended, silence returned to the station. Smoke rose from damaged panels, and wounded personnel were assisted to safety. Ziria wiped her brow, breathing heavily, but her gaze was fixed on Kale. He stood calmly, unshaken, eyes alert, still analyzing, still prepared. "You," she began, struggling for words. "You are not what I expected. Not weak. Not helpless. You..." Kale inclined his head slightly. "Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it is hidden until it is needed." Ziria's mind raced. She had believed humans were inferior, fragile, incapable of surviving in her world, and yet here was Kale, calm, intelligent, resourceful, indispensable. She realized she had misjudged him completely. Her perspective began to shift. Humans may not match alien physical power, she thought, but their minds were formidable weapons. Kale had not only survived the attack but had actively changed its outcome. He had saved lives, preserved systems, and neutralized threats, all without displaying the obvious brute force she had assumed was necessary. For the first time, she felt a spark of admiration, mixed with curiosity. This human, quiet and unassuming, had revealed a fraction of his potential, and she sensed that there was much more to discover. Kale turned toward her, his expression calm but steady. "This world is dangerous, but danger can reveal hidden strength. You have seen a small part of mine today." Ziria nodded slowly, her pride tempered by recognition. She had underestimated him, and that mistake would not happen again. In that moment, a new understanding formed between them, not of love or partnership yet, but of respect and potential. The station's council would hear of this event, and whispers would spread across the alien networks. Humans could be more than they seemed. But for Ziria, it was personal. She had seen Kale's quiet power firsthand, and she knew deep down that this human was not just her husband. He might be the key to survival in the challenges that lay ahead. The stars outside the observation windows shone brightly. Kale gazed at them, calm and composed, while Ziria remained silent beside him, her thoughts alive with questions and possibilities. The trials were far from over, but for the first time she no longer doubted the strength hidden within the human at her side. The aftermath of the attack left the station buzzing with activity. Repairs were underway, wounded personnel were tended to, and the council held emergency meetings to assess the situation. Ziria moved with purpose, overseeing every detail, her mind racing as she replayed Kale's actions in her head. She could not ignore what she had seen. The human she had underestimated had proven himself invaluable, more capable than anyone could have imagined. Kale, meanwhile, remained calm. He assisted where he could, quietly observing the repairs, learning the systems, and noting weak points in the station's defenses. Unlike the aliens who relied on brute strength or advanced technology alone, Kyle seemed to think ahead, predicting what could go wrong and taking steps to prevent it. His mind was a weapon as powerful as any blade or energy shield. Ziria approached him, her expression thoughtful. "Kyle," she said, "today you did more than survive. You changed the outcome of the attack. How do you do it?" Kale looked at her calmly, almost shyly. "I notice patterns, I predict actions, and I act at the right moment. That is all." Ziria shook her head in disbelief. "That is no small feat. You are more than I imagined, more than I even dared hope." She led him to the central control hub, where council members and security officers were monitoring the station's systems. Alien engineers had been working tirelessly, but gaps remained. Kyle quickly identified them, hidden vulnerabilities, overlooked by even the most experienced minds. With a few precise instructions and subtle manipulations of the control panels, he stabilized critical systems, rerouted energy flows, and improved communication channels. The council members stared in awe. They had witnessed his calm efficiency, but seeing him act in such a technical, strategic way left them speechless. One of the senior engineers whispered, He sees the station as a whole. It is like he can read it." Ziria nodded quietly. That was exactly what she had realized herself. Humans may not have the physical strength of her kind, but Kale's mind could anticipate, adapt, and solve problems faster than most could even understand. The real test came when a second, unexpected threat emerged. Sensors detected a vessel, approaching at high speed, weapons charging, and cloaked drones beginning to infiltrate the station. Panic began to rise among the security forces. Ziria drew her blades, ready to engage. Kyle, however, remained composed. "Step back," he instructed calmly. "Let me handle this." Ziria hesitated. She had seen him assist before, but this was different. The threat was immediate and deadly, yet Kale moved with quiet authority, accessing the station's control panels, overriding systems with speed and precision. Energy shields rose in patterns the aliens had not designed, trapping the drones before they could reach vital areas. Automated defense turrets activated, GBI Kale's calculations, hitty. The station buzzed with quiet activity after the recent threats, but Ziria and Kale moved through the halls with a calm purpose. Today was not about battles or tests. It was about understanding each other and the world they now shared. The first days of tension had passed, and what remained was curiosity, respect, and a growing awareness of Kale's hidden abilities. Ziria led him to the council chambers, where alien leaders had gathered to discuss the station's recovery. They were tense, worried about future attacks, and uncertain of the human who had played such a pivotal role in saving them all. Ziria addressed them confidently. "This human," she said, gesturing to Kale, "has proven himself invaluable. His strength is not measured in muscle or firepower, but in intelligence, strategy, and foresight. We would be wise to learn from him." Some council members frowned, skeptical. Humans had rarely impressed their kind, and many were slow to accept change. Kale, however, remained composed, observing without judgment. He did not need praise. His work spoke for itself. An elder council member spoke. "We have seen him act, yes. But can a human truly lead in a crisis? Can he make decisions under pressure as effectively as our own trained warriors?" Kale stepped forward, his calm demeanor commanding attention without arrogance. "Leadership is not about dominance. It is about understanding the problem, anticipating consequences, and acting decisively when necessary. Strength is more than force. It is knowledge, patience, and judgment." The room went silent. Even Ziria's critics had to admit that his words carried truth. The calm certainty of the human, combined with his record of action, made the council reconsider their assumptions. Later, Ziria and Kale walked through the station's corridors, discussing repairs and defense strategies. Kale pointed out inefficiencies in the power distribution, subtle flaws that could be exploited by attackers. Ziria listened intently, impressed by the precision of his observations. Where alien engineers often relied on brute strength or automated systems, Kale relied on understanding patterns and making adjustments that were both simple and ingenious. "You see things differently," Ziria said, watching him adjust a control panel with delicate efficiency. "You notice the smallest details and use them to make a difference." Kale glanced at her, calm as ever. "Sometimes the smallest details change the outcome more than the largest actions. Patterns repeat. Systems react predictably. Understanding them is more powerful than fighting blindly." As they continued, word of Kale's accomplishments spread quietly through the station. Engineers began consulting him for advice. Security officers sought his guidance on patrol patterns. Even some younger aliens, curious and eager to learn, followed him. Observing his methods and strategies, Ziria noticed the change in perception. The same beings who had once dismissed humans as weak were now cautiously intrigued. And while Kyle remained humble, he quietly earned respect across species boundaries. One evening, Ziria and Kale stood together on a balcony overlooking the docking bay. Ships arrived and departed, and the hum of the station felt less chaotic than before. "You've changed their minds," Ziria said softly. "They're beginning to see humans differently." Kyle shrugged lightly. "I do not act to impress. I act to help. If others see it as strength, that is their perception, not mine." Ziria studied him, realizing how rare his qualities were. A being so calm, observant, and courageous, yet so humble, was extraordinary. She felt a growing trust, a sense that they could face any challenge together. Days later, the council called for a simulation exercise, a large-scale defense scenario against hypothetical attackers. Ziria participated fully, but Kale was placed in a strategic role, coordinating defenses and anticipating enemy movements. The exercise began, and Ziria watched in astonishment as Kale guided forces, rerouted energy flows, and predicted enemy strategies with ease. He did not fight in the traditional sense, yet his influence turned the simulation in their favor repeatedly. Where others relied on brute force, Kale relied on understanding, calculation, and timing. When the exercise concluded, the council erupted in applause. "Remarkable," said one member. "The human has a mind for strategy unlike any we have seen." Ziria smiled quietly. She had long admired strength in combat, but now she saw that true power could be hidden in intelligence and foresight. Kale had revealed it without arrogance or fanfare, simply by being himself. That night in their quarters, Ziria looked at Kale with a new appreciation. "I misjudged you," she admitted. "I thought humans were weak, incapable. But you are extraordinary in ways I had never imagined." Kyle's expression was calm but sincere. "I have learned to survive, and to help. That is all any being can do." Ziria shook her head. "No. You have shown more than survival. You have inspired. You have proven that humans can be more than the universe expects, and I am grateful to have you by my side." Kyle looked at her, quiet admiration in his eyes. "Then we face what comes next together, as partners." For Ziria, that word, partner, carried weight. She had entered this marriage with assumptions and pride, but now she recognized the value of mutual respect and collaboration. She realized that their strengths complemented each other perfectly. Her physical power and experience, his intelligence and foresight. Together, they were formidable. The days that followed solidified their partnership. Kale continued to assist with strategic planning, teaching station personnel how to observe patterns and think ahead. Ziria took him on missions, both to protect the station and to explore nearby regions, trusting his judgment and relying on his calm efficiency. The perception of humans began to shift more broadly. Stories of Kale's actions spread to nearby, Colonies. Aliens who had once considered humans weak now spoke of their ingenuity and potential. Ziria felt a quiet pride, not just for Kale, but for the species he represented. By the time the station returned to relative normalcy, a new understanding had formed. Kale was no longer just a human husband. He was a respected figure, a strategic mind and a symbol of what humans could achieve. Ziria's respect for him deepened, and her assumptions about weakness and strength were forever changed. Standing together on the balcony once more, overlooking the bustling station, Ziria finally spoke with quiet determination. Whatever challenges come next, we face them together, and I will not doubt you again. Kale smiled, calm and steady. Together, he agreed. The stars beyond the station shone brightly, silent witnesses to the forging of a partnership built on respect, trust, and the revelation of hidden strength. The station was alive with activity, but it was no longer the same place Kale had first arrived at. The events of the past weeks had changed everything. Aliens who had once looked down on humans now regarded them with newfound respect, and Kale had become a quiet symbol of what humanity could achieve. Ziria stood on the observation balcony, overlooking the bustling docking bay. Ships arrived and departed carrying goods, personnel, and messages across the galaxy. Her thoughts turned to Kale, who had been at her side through every trial, proving time and again that strength was not always obvious. He joined her silently, his calm presence comforting. "The station is more secure now," Kale said, his eyes scanning the activity below. "And the people are adapting. They have learned to anticipate threats better." Ziria smiled, admiration evident in her gaze. "You have done more than that. You have changed how humans are seen. They are no longer underestimated." Kyle shook his head gently. "I do not act to change perception. I act to help. Recognition is a consequence, not a goal." Despite his humility, the truth was clear. Stories of his actions had spread across nearby colonies and stations. Reports of how a human had quietly neutralized attackers, stabilized systems, and guided alien forces in crisis had traveled faster than any message network. For many, it was hard to believe. A human so seemingly fragile, demonstrating intellect, strategy, and courage beyond imagination. Ziria placed a hand on Kale's arm. "You have proven that humans can be more than what anyone thought. And I am proud to stand beside you." Kyle looked at her, calm and steady. "Then we move forward together. That is what matters." The council called for a formal ceremony to acknowledge the station's defenders. Ziria and Kale attended, though Kale remained modest, standing quietly as others were praised. When it was his turn, the council spoke clearly. "This human, Kale, has shown intelligence, bravery, and insight beyond what we have ever witnessed. He has saved countless lives and stabilized the station during the greatest threat it has faced in decades. We recognize him as a leader, strategist, and a symbol of human potential." The applause was loud, though Kale did not seek it. He bowed slightly, acknowledging the recognition, but not letting it change him. Ziria felt a swell of pride, not just in Kale, but in the truth he represented. Humans could rise above expectations and accomplish extraordinary feats. Later, she took him aside. "You have done more than survive. You have inspired. You have shown that humans have strength in ways our species did not understand." Kyle smiled faintly. "I have done what any being could, if they choose to observe, adapt, and act. That is all." But Ziria knew it was far more than that. Kyle's calm, intelligence, and courage had rewritten assumptions about humanity. Other humans would now be seen differently, respected rather than dismissed. His actions had changed the course of history in subtle, profound ways.